Hello, and welcome to my channel, where we may be dazed, but we are not confused. We are going to do a Stargazer reading for the sign of Libra. So the purpose of this reading is to take a look at what you can do to align more closely with the star that shines within you. So we are going to be using the Mystical Shaman Oracle today. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, the story of the old wound that you will need to release in order to become more in alignment with the star inside of you is that of being able to be comfortable with and a master of the night. And in this case, as according to this card, it's about being able to see clearly the truth in dark situations, in dark circumstances, being able to pick up the messages that it is giving you about yourself, how you see things, how you see others through the messenger that can come as another person. So this could be a situation where, maybe you're constantly in kind of toxic situations, or you have people with these behavioral patterns that are not helpful, but you keep coming into contact with these people, and you've gotten to a place where you've learned how to handle these types of individuals, and that so much so that you feel comfortable being around and in social interactions because you've mastered how to handle that. All right, all the nuances of it. This is also being in a state where you're okay with dealing with things that might be kind of maybe not in your best interest or the highest of vibrations, because you can see through that person and see an aspect of yourself in them. So a lot of times people will say that if you look at someone and you notice flaws or patterns or things that trigger you, or they make you have this kind of judgmental or strong reaction to it, usually that means that it's because there's something inside of you that is being reflected back. So this person is a mirror of you. Now, because this is in the position of an old wound that you have, what I'm saying is that you might be getting into interactions and social exchanges, perhaps even significant ones, like life partners and things like that, with individuals that reflect back characteristics and aspects that you don't resonate with, that you don't actually like, and that are not in alignment with your personal values. But because you, at some level, you probably have done some spiritual work, or you're very in tune with yourself, or you try to be forgiving and understanding because you know that you have the capacity to also exhibit that kind of trait, or you have the capacity to also be like that, it makes you try to have some compassion and give these people chances, or give certain circumstances or environments a chance, even though it doesn't resonate with you. And I feel like at some level, this could be holding you back, because what you're trying to align with and what you're trying to do is beyond this. But because you are trying to show that you are non-judgmental and you're unbiased, and you recognize that you also have the capacity to do this thing or be this way, or maybe you came from this kind of environment, or you know what it's like to be in this situation, and so on and so forth, you're opening yourself up to have experiences that you have already kind of moved beyond, and that don't actually resonate with who you are and what you are trying to do in this life. So the old story, or the current story that you have that you should take a look at letting go of in order to create a new story, is the story of sacrifice. And so putting this together with what you had in your old wound story, which was the owl card, this is, to me, is saying that you might feel and know that this doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't vibe with you, But instead of kind of removing and allowing yourself to shift into spaces and relationships and interactions that resonate with you, that bring your soul alive, that make you feel happy, fulfilled, and whole, you're sacrificing an aspect of yourself to participate with and interact with and just exist in spaces that are not resonating with you. So this could be you going into jobs that are not fulfilling you, that maybe have a toxic environment, or being in relationships and giving people chances when their character triggers you. There's something that they do character-wise, or they might even just be downright, in your mind, unethical or immoral in nature. But you feel at some level that your presence and being around them is going to lift up their vibe, and you showing them that you're not judging them and that you're still going to be this person that tries to bring, love and compassion and understanding and empathy to the situation, that they'll recognize that you're making a sacrifice of your character or a sacrifice of your own peace and well-being in order to be around with them and to deal with them and to allow them to kind of spew on you sometimes or to impact your environment, and that they'll see that and recognize that you're sacrificing your heart, like the most precious thing that you have, which is your heart, your soul, at some level, to be in spaces and in places that don't resonate and that are not in alignment with who you are, and that you're doing it as an act of love. And this is an old story that is needing to be shed in order to get in alignment with who you are. Because I think the dichotomy here is that a lot of times when you hear someone say that, if you're judging someone or something bothers you about someone, that just means that you have that too. And that's who you are. And that's the real problem. That can create this circular thing to where you can't just look and acknowledge and say, oh yes, this person is doing this thing, it bothers me. You stop at the point where it's like, oh, well, that must mean that I have that too. And then you can get set into a place of shame and embarrassment and think like, oh my goodness, that means that I'm that person too. If I say something about it, or if I react to it, or if I try to remove myself, then that means that I'm admitting that I'm just as bad as they are. I do the same things, or I just so on and so forth. And I think like the difference is recognizing the difference between recognizing that you have a trait or characteristic that might be undesirable to you and recognizing that in another person, and understanding that there's a difference between recognizing that you have a characteristic or trait that you deem undesirable or something that's not acceptable, and being able to differentiate between your ability to master that and not choose to actually do that and not choose to actually engage with other people in that manner. All right. As opposed to just recognizing it in somebody else and then feeling as if you can't vibe in a space that you want to because, deep down, I have that same problem because it bothers me so much. So basically you're overriding your gut, your intuition, something inside of you that's telling you, oh, this is not a safe space for you, or this is not healthy for you. So for example, it could be that maybe it's a person that has a problem with, I don't know, maybe stealing or something. I mean, that's more of an extreme example, but and you might have a history of like, maybe you used to steal things. Maybe you used to shoplift when you were younger or something like that, or something more mundane. Maybe you have an issue with, you can't stand materialism or something. And that was because you grew up in a very wealthy family and they were always very materialistic and you always had this and that. And it was valued. And so when you see that in other people, it triggers you. But instead of saying, you know what, I have values that align with, I value people over money, or I value quality over quantity, or showing off or whatever, or with stealing, I might have had a past of doing that, but I don't do that now and I don't condone it. If you saw somebody stealing, or if you saw somebody maybe mistreating somebody because they don't have something, you would feel taking on the mentality of that whole, well, if you see it, then that just means that's an issue you have. If you're coming from a shame place, you're not going to feel like you could say anything about it or stand up for someone or try to right a wrong when it's taking place. And so in essence, like you're almost in collusion and going along with it. But in your mind, it's like, well, I don't do that. I'm not that kind of person, but I'm not going to call this person out, or I'm not going to make anybody feel uncomfortable because, you know, I used to be like that too. Or deep down, I'm also that person. Or if I see something, because I'm in this owl energy where I'm a master of the night, I can see through situations with clarity. I can see this and so on. You know, just because I can see it doesn't mean that everybody else can. And I'm just going to be here. Like, that's hindering you and holding you back. And I hope that's clear. I mean, I feel like that might have been convoluted, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. So the wisdom that you should try to acquire in order to get more in alignment with the star shining within you is the energy of the rainbow. Okay, so what this is saying is that this is about aligning with your true spiritual path. And with the rainbow, it's speaking about like the 7 chakras. Okay. And so this is, instead of just staying in the space of mastering these dark situations, or, you know, kind of being in triggering situations and overcoming obstacles or overcoming, you know, all the different things that we kind of come up against that can be dark moments in our lives. This is saying to focus, if you can get the wisdom to focus on each of your chakras and what they represent for you, it would be very helpful, because I'm picking up that you might have some blockages that are causing you to get stuck and not be able to move past this space of just mastering dark moments, or having to be around people who are not of the highest vibration, who are constantly triggering and putting you in situations. It's almost like a self-sabotaging energy. And I feel like it might be rooted in old wounding in childhood. You know, it could be generational patterns. It could be, you know, maybe toxic or abusive situations you went through just in life in general, that you got so used to overcoming that and learning how to master yourself in those situations that it doesn't quite bother you so much to be around these individuals. Like, I feel like it does bother you, but you've learned how to adapt and to master the situations and kind of figure out how to move within the context of those situations. But that's blocking you from taking the next big step, which is to get in alignment with your true spiritual path and to almost retrieve your true essence of who you are, not the person that you've sacrificed. Because keep in mind, if your story is that you sacrifice yourself and who you are in order to be in to thrive within these dark situations, then that at some level has been kind of lost, or it's kind of hidden somewhere. And this is saying that it's important for you to focus on who you are now, not what might come later. Because I feel like with this sacrifice, you might be feeling that your spiritual path is to sacrifice who you are so that other people can see the light, or they can see the difference, or they know that you overcame this thing and you don't choose to do that. And sometime in the future, they'll get it and they'll make this change. But while you're like making yourself, basically setting yourself on fire to become a guiding light for others, you're just burning away, and you're wasting the time that you have in this life to be the fullness of who you came to be. Like, you're setting yourself on fire to help others, which, you know, you can't really do. Like, it's, you know, it's bright and people might watch or be fascinated, but like, is it causing them to make a change because they're watching you do that? Most likely it could have some impact, but at the end of the day, these individuals, and if it's environments, those as well, will have to undergo their own spiritual journey to go through that journey of these different chakras and understand what their blockages are, their emotional baggage, and the things that have them behaving or believing certain things and blocking themselves. Because when you say block your blockages, it's what's blocking you from manifesting the most aligned reality that you could be in, that's in alignment with your truest, highest self. Okay. And so if you're able to do this, then, you know, align with your truest intentions. You know, first of all, figure out what your intentions actually are from an unblocked space, from a space of feeling more clear and free to be who you are, outside of this energy that you've been operating on before. the destiny that you could walk into is soul retrieval. So this is a beautiful card because it's speaking of you kind of like doing this return to your most purest, most innocent self, like your original self, the part of you before you were influenced in either direction to let go of that or release it. And you know, that's a part of life. Like we're born and we live in a society where that's encouraged. And in fact, it's set up like that to where you know, from the moment that you're born, the family you're born into, the environment, the community, the overall structure and social reality that we live in, it throws you off. And you may not feel safe to be who you are. And really, there's very few spaces for you even to do that. But what this is saying is that you have the capacity to transform back into this original being that you were. And this actually goes a step beyond just childhood wounding and trying to heal that and overcome that. This is going back to an original state of almost like this return to Eden is what it's saying. And so it's like you're not fragmented. You feel like you're connected with creation. This would be like the opposite of sacrificing your heart to this thing. This is like taking it back and putting it all together and being full in that energy and showing up and not allowing yourself to be distracted by all the things that are going on that might remind you of things that you might have dealt with in darkness or that you might have mastered while you were in this out energy. Not to be distracted by the fact that that's happening and it might be triggering you. You know, is this calling me into it? Is it calling me to try to be present for this person because I want to prove that I have truly mastered this, that I'm not going to even let it bother me? No, it's saying to be so connected to this original self, to be so fully immersed in the energy and the vibe of this Garden of Eden experience, which is where you're connected, you feel connected with all that is. This connection with nature, this connection with others from a healthy place. And also, most importantly, being connected with yourself, because you can't connect that way unless you are aligned with yourself. And so, I mean, this actually makes me go back again. Like I'm seeing the color red, you know, I feel like it's root energy, root chakra energy. You might need to work with that as well. This sense of survival, this sense of, making it through. And if you were going through dark times, you might have been stuck in the energy of just trying to make it through and survive tough times. And you may have become fragmented in that. And so in your mind, because you're already fragmented, you know, it's easier to give pieces of yourself away to different people who may not appreciate it, who don't actually understand the value of it because it's priceless. That part of you is priceless and no one can fully grasp the seriousness of a gift like that to someone. And I feel like that's what's being asked. It's not always wrong to sacrifice. In fact, you know, they say, you know, there's no greater love than you can give than to give your life for another. But I feel like in this particular context, you are giving away life that you don't fully have for yourself, okay? That you've never fully experienced for yourself. And this is basically saying that you have an opportunity to retrieve this part of yourself and to show up in that way. And that's what will bring you into alignment. And I feel ironically that would have more impact maybe on the individuals or environment or things that you would like to have some kind of positive influence over than to just give away from an empty cup or give pieces of you that are not full representations of who you are. Okay. All right. So Libra, I hope that was helpful for you. That's what I have for your reading on this Stargazer. Look into what you can do to be in alignment with your star. Thank you for joining me on this channel where we may be days, but we are not confused. And until the next video, bye-bye.